I have seen a lot of people mention that the raid could be succeed, particularly because a lot of plot threads have been resolved now, and the samurai has been recruited, the scabbards have been fleshed out, we have learned about Oden, we have explored the island, and a lot of stuff that has not have been explored yet could be done over the course of the battle. Kaido pass and then Yamato's role and how the aliens will win and else. Plus it's been mentioned many times that this is the aliens' only chance to win against Kaido. They can't afford to mess this up. But I still think overall that the raid will end in failure for many reasons. I still think there are a lot of plot threads that need to be resolved over the course of this arc. Now I'm not saying that the raid on Onigashima won't be long, which it could be, but I don't think there are few too many potential plot threads that need to be explored over the course of this arc for it to act as a satisfying conclusion to Oda's first Super Saga. Let me preface this by saying that I'm a little more confident in some of these areas than others. They might not all get addressed, but I do feel like a lot of this would make sense for this arc. Wano has been built up for a long time to be a very important arc for Zoro's character. I don't think anybody really disagrees with that. Some of the earliest mentions of Wano were during Zoro's fight against Ryuma to get the legendary sword. Conceptually, Wano should be an important arc for Zoro's character since it's a land of Sword Master, so this would be a perfect arc for Zoro to test his abilities and show how much he's grown in the new world. Even the first chapter of Wano had huge focus on Zoro when he had that badass fight against the multiverse swordsman with just a small knife. Now obviously Zoro had some time to shine in this arc with his fight against Killer, the relationship he built up with Lord Yasui and the town of Ebisu, and how he received the new sword, but I do think that in order for this arc to be satisfying arc to demonstrate Zoro's growth in the new world, a lot still needs to happen and I'm not sure all of it can be addressed over the course of one big battle. I think Zoro needs to have a major fight, possibly against King, a major conflict to overcome for his character, maybe similar to what we seen with Sanji in Whole Cake Island, and demonstration of him going all out. As many people have pointed out in the past, Zoro has not really had an opportunity to go all out in the new world yet. He had his fight against Monet in Pang Hazard and then against Pika, which was more of a test of figuring out how to cut him rather than a fight to the death, but nothing on par with his fight against maybe Mr. One in Alabasta or Kuku in Ennis Lobby. Both of these were climax arcs to sagas, but Zoro was not really focused in either of them. If Zoro is supposed to have some focus on the conclusion to this major saga, I still think there needs to be a lot more groundwork made for the opponent he will fight, and I'm not 100% sure that all of that can be achieved over the course of this one battle. It would make more sense to spread some of this out. Now let's talk about Yamato. For a character that is supposedly going to be very important in this arc, there's still a lot that we don't know about her. She was just introduced a few chapters ago and I think it will be a while before purpose in the story becomes clear. It would just seem a little weird to me from a storytelling perspective for Oda to introduce such a crucial player this close to the final battle. If they were supposed to play a crucial role in the story, I don't doubt that Yamato's character can be fleshed out more in a flashback during this battle, maybe even during a Kaido flashback. But I do think that Yamato needs to be around for a lot longer so that Oda has time to sell everybody on Yamato's character. And another factor that relates to Yamato is we have been taught from the beginning and even hinted as early as Marineford that has spent a considerable amount of time in Wano. We have gotten hints of it through Tama and Yamato mention knowing Ace, but there's still very little that we know about why Ace was in Wano and what he was doing there. It seems a bit like a red herring. Why would Oda decide to include us in arc that already has so many characters with different roles to fulfill? And I think that this definitely needs to be expanded on during this arc. Initially, I thought that maybe Yamato was going to go into a flashback when she revealed that she knew Ace, but that didn't happen. I don't know when Yamato might mention more about her relationship with Ace, but I'm not sure how Ace's history in Wano can be organically included into the raid on Onigashima. My two best guesses would be that it could appear in a Kaido flashback or maybe in a reflection after the battle is over, but I personally think it makes more sense to happen after the raid rather than during it. Among the worst generation, Luffy, Law and Kid have kind of been built up to be equals in a way. We've gotten plenty of exploration of Law's character over the course of Dressrosa, but there's still a lot that we don't know about Kid. I'm not necessarily expecting us to get a long, detailed story about every member of the worst generation. Most of them probably will get some exploration, but not all necessarily. But I think Kid, with how he's essentially built up to be a major rival to Luffy, definitely deserve a lot of screen time that we have not seen yet. I'm not sure what form that will take in the story, maybe a flashback, maybe big fight with one of Kaido's crew, but I do feel with his inclusion in the arc he will have a major role to play at some point. Law doesn't necessarily need a major role in this arc since he already got plenty of time in Dressrosa. So, Kid still needs a little more time to flesh out what he's going to do in this arc. This point is definitely a lot more speculative admittedly, but like a lot of people, I'm still not sure that Orochi and Kanjuro are dead yet. They very well could be, but it is certainly possible they could be alive thanks to their devil fruit abilities. I only feel like this point is worth mentioning because I could easily see Orochi acting incredibly bitter from Kaido's betrayal and trying to do something in the shadows like kill Momonosuke. It could also offer an opportunity for Kanjuro to get some redemption by possibly stopping Orochi or helping the allies escape if the raid fails. Also, if the reveal of the traitor was supposed to be a huge deal in this arc, it seemed a little weird to me that Kanjuro's death would be left off screen the way it was. Deaths are rare in One Piece and Oda usually likes to build up deaths to be these grand events like Ace, Whitebeard and Pedro. In fact, the only time I can think of a character getting killed off screen off the top of my head is Absalom. And Aimo Kanjuro has more importance to the story than he ever did. Again, I wanna stress that they could very well be dead and I would probably be fine with either case, but it makes more sense to me from a storytelling perspective that we see a proper conclusion to the Korozumi part of this arc. So how will Luffy beat Kaido? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was that long ago when Oda mentioned that he doesn't know how Luffy is going to defeat Kaido in this point. The way I see it, even if Luffy takes Kaido on in a giant team-up fight, Luffy still needs more power-up significantly to beat Kaido. I don't think the Haki training he got in the prison is going to cut it. I think it will help in him out during a battle in the raid, and it already has with removing Yamato's scarf. But the power difference between Luffy and Kaido was so immense during their first encounter that I think Luffy still needs to undergo some serious growth before it's possible. A major failure seems to like it would make for great condition for Luffy to go into serious training mode in Act 4. Let's say Act 3 ends with the raid failing and Luffy failing out of commission. This might give them the time he needs to train in Act 4, while other characters like Zoro, Yamato, Kid and others have the spotlight before we can have a major comeback in Act 5 or something. Well, we have learned a lot more about Drake in this arc. I feel that he and the Marines might still have some role to play, since I don't consider him to be one of the most important member of the worst generation. I'm not suggesting he needs some sort of super detailed backstory like others, but he could act in sort of role the way that BG did in Whole Cake Island. He ends up being a major player but not anywhere close to the focus. At least at this point we have yet to see him make any major moves in arc other than inform the Marines of what is happening. If I had to make guess of where he might have importance, it could be that the Marines show up near the end of the arc to try and capture a lot of pirates after the battle ends. I can imagine the Marines hear about all the craziness happening in Wano and they just choose to do nothing. Sure, they have their hands full with the former Shibukai, but they could send a net mirror to try and keep things from getting too out of control. Carrot's role in the story right now is baffling to me. A lot of people were convinced she might even join the crew after what she did in Whole Cake Island, but she really has not done anything this arc at all. She's just been a background character, and I don't think necessarily she needs to have a major role or anything. I'm mostly just wondering that if her only a major role was to have the Straw Hat escape, then why has not she rejoined with the main force? She instead seems to be spending a lot of time with the Straw Hats and was even joining the Straw Hat in Jinbei reuniting with the crew, which would be a little weird if she was not a Straw Hat. Now, I'm in no way suggesting that she has to join the crew or anything. Far from it, I think if Oda wanted her to join at this point, she would need screen time and maybe a battle of some kind. The one that might make the most sense would be for her to go after Pero for what he did to Pedro. But even then, I don't think she's strong enough to take him down. She would need assistance from somebody else that's really strong. A lot of plot threads have been more or less resolved in this arc so far, and it's anyone's guess how long the raid on Onigashima will last, but I don't think it's necessarily true that everything has been resolved yet. Some of this could be resolved over the course of the raid, but I think trying to address too many things in the giant battle might make the battle feel bloated and lose focus. It makes more sense to me to address all of this plot threads over the course of a bunch of chapters. I'm in no way saying that all of this have to be resolved, but needless to say that whatever happens, I have very high expectation for Wano. I think that out of all of the arcs so far, Wano is Oda's most ambitious arc since it's sort of the conclusion to everything that has happened in the new world so far. Even his editors have hyped up Wano, saying that it would make Marineford look like a joke. I can have but have expectation and expect for a lot more stuff to happen since this arc is almost in a sense too big to fail. Alright guys, the last thing I want to mention before I end this video is that everybody keeps saying the raid on Onigashima can fail because it's the aliens only sought to beat Kaido. Weirdly enough, this logic is exactly what leads me to believe that the raid will fail, because it would make for awesome storytelling. So you might think about it, the plan that every character has said can fail, ultimately fails, and it leaves our heroes at one of the lowest points we have seen them yet. This will make it all the more exciting and satisfying when they desperately pick up the pieces from their failure and find a way to overcome the impossible odds and beat Kaido. In many ways, this arc acts as a test for Luffy to prove that he can come out successful against Yonko and not just run away. I think before that can happen, a major defeat, losing the raid that cannot fail, would make for some really exciting storytelling. The failure would help give the story more time to flesh out the potential plot threads I mentioned before, and make for an epic comeback to one of the most ambitious arcs in One Piece yet. Okay guys, so thank you for this video. If you got something to say, and I hope you enjoy the theory, just if you got something to say, just put it down right in the comment. I think that's it for today, and I'll see you to the next one. Thank you.